Did you know that silence can be the best strategy in moments of decision? The power of remaining silent is a secret that few know and that can completely transform your life. Throughout this video, you will discover how keeping quiet at the right time is a demonstration of wisdom, discernment, and faith, something that can avoid mistakes and bring quick clarity in situations where many would fail. It is not about avoiding words, but rather about using them with precision and purpose. This is a strategy that few practice, but that can bring powerful changes. Understand how silence can be your greatest strength in everyday decisions. Silence often speaks louder than words. When a person chooses silence in moments of conflict or tension, they demonstrate control and discernment. The proverb that says, "Even a fool when he keeps silent is considered wise," teaches us that there is power in stillness. The wise man recognizes that not every moment requires an immediate response. Instead of reacting impulsively, he uses silence as a tool of prudence. Jesus is a great example of wisdom in the use of silence. He knew when to speak and when to simply observe. In many situations, he chose not to respond, showing that silence can be a powerful response. This practice is a reflection of faith and trust in something greater. In moments when we are provoked or challenged, we should ask ourselves, what do we gain by responding with words? Silence often preserves peace and reveals wisdom. In everyday life, applying this principle is an exercise in patience and self-knowledge. When we are in an argument, for example, the impulse may be to defend ourselves or attack. However, keeping silent can prevent words that cannot be taken back later. A practical suggestion is, in moments of anger or stress, to take a walk, take a deep breath, and allow yourself time to reflect before speaking. This simple act can prevent great regrets. There is profound wisdom in listening to silence and practicing it at strategic moments. In addition to being a demonstration of self-control, silence gives space for discernment to flourish. Often, in silence, we find the answers we are looking for, as it allows us to reflect, access our inner wisdom, and seek God's guidance. The moment when Jesus remained silent before Pilate and Herod is one of the greatest demonstrations of spiritual strength. He, who had all the power to defend himself, chose not to respond to the accusations, trusting completely in God's will. This gesture shows that sometimes silence can be a choice of courage and faith. By not reacting, Jesus demonstrated that not all battles need to be fought with words. This example is a powerful lesson for those who find themselves in situations of injustice or conflict. In everyday life, when we are unjustly accused or when we face challenges, the natural tendency is to defend ourselves, explain, or counterattack. However, silence in many cases can disarm the other side. This is not about weakness, but about trusting that the truth will reveal itself in due time. What Jesus teaches us here is that faith in God must be greater than our need to respond to every attack. Think of a situation at work or in your family where a misplaced word could fuel an argument. Choosing silence in these moments requires a great deal of self-control and discernment. By following Jesus' example, we can learn to deal with situations in a calmer and wiser way. Instead of reacting immediately, try practicing stillness and observing how the environment around you changes. This kind of silence can also teach us to trust God more. Often, when we want to speak up or defend ourselves, it is our ego that is in control. By choosing silence, we give God space to work, His wisdom to guide us, and our faith to grow. It is in silence that we often discover true spiritual strength and learn to act in accordance with God's will. Being able to listen before speaking is a rare and valuable virtue. James 1:19 teaches us that we should be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. This advice reminds us of the importance of discernment before making any opinion or judgment. When we listen attentively, we give ourselves space to truly understand the other person, avoiding hasty reactions that can lead to misunderstandings and conflicts. In our daily lives, there are countless situations in which speaking too quickly can lead us to problems. How many times have we drawn the wrong conclusions because we did not stop to listen fully? This principle can be applied to our conversations with friends, co-workers, or even family members. When someone is telling us something, instead of interrupting or already formulating a response in our minds, it is wise to listen until the end. Silence at this moment can allow us to capture important nuances of what is being said. A practical way to apply this wisdom is to practice active listening. This means paying full attention to what the other person is saying without interrupting or judging. After the person has finished speaking, ask questions that show interest and a desire to understand more. This practice, in addition to promoting healthier relationships, prevents us from speaking without thinking, which can often lead to misunderstandings. A good tip is to remember, we don't always need to have an immediate answer. Listening before speaking also connects us directly to God's will. Often in the silence of listening, we find answers that the noise of our words could drown out. Being slow to speak is a sign of faith and wisdom, because when we listen, we are also hearing God's voice guiding us on what, when, and how we should say. The words we speak carry much more weight than we often realize. Jesus warns us in Matthew 1:36 that we will have to account for every useless word we say. This reminds us of the seriousness of our words and the impact they can have on the lives of others and on our own spiritual journey. Ill-considered words can hurt, create divisions, and distance us from God's will. Silence, on the other hand, can prevent us from causing irreversible damage with our tongue. In the heat of an argument, impulsiveness can lead us to say things we wouldn't say in calmer moments. How many friendships, relationships, or opportunities have been destroyed by words spoken without reflection? It takes discernment to know when to speak and what to say. Sometimes silence is the best response, especially when our emotions are running high. When we avoid idle words, we are practicing the wisdom of protecting both ourselves and others from emotional harm. To apply this principle in our daily lives, a good practice is to always pause before responding in moments of tension. This allows us to reflect on what we are about to say. We can also get into the habit of asking ourselves, will what I am about to say build up or tear down? If we are unsure about the answer, it is best to opt for silence. This attitude of self-control is a demonstration of maturity and faith. Avoiding idle words is also a sign of reverence for God. Every word that comes out of our mouths should be used wisely, in a way that blesses and brings life, and not the other way around. By cultivating this care with what we say, we are showing that our faith is not only in our hearts, but also manifests itself in our daily words and actions. One great wisdom we have is knowing how to keep secrets. This is a valuable virtue that demonstrates trust and discernment. Proverbs 11:13 teaches us that those who are trustworthy keep their secrets, while those who talk too much betray their confidences. This reminds us that sharing confidential information can have serious consequences, both for those who trust us and for ourselves. Keeping secrets is not only a question of loyalty, but also of wisdom in knowing when and what to share. In our daily lives, we are constantly entrusted with personal information, whether from friends, family, or co-workers. The temptation to talk about something we know often comes from a desire to feel important or included in a conversation. However, we must be careful. Christian wisdom teaches us to act with prudence, especially when we are responsible for secrets that can impact another person's life. Disclosing information without permission can break trust and even lead to major conflicts. A practical way to apply this principle is to be very selective about what we share, even with people we trust. Not everything we know needs to be said, and in many cases, silence is the best response. If you feel tempted to share something confidential, pause and consider the possible consequences. Is it worth risking someone's trust in you? Silence in these cases can be a sign of respect and wisdom. In addition to protecting the trust of others, keeping secrets also reflects our faith in God. Silence often allows plans and dreams to mature away from the prying eyes of others, in an environment of safety and discretion. It is in this silence that faith is strengthened, and God works in our hearts and directs us. The parable of the sower, told by Jesus in Matthew 13, teaches us a valuable lesson about where and with whom we should share our dreams and plans. Just as the farmer needs to carefully choose the soil in which to plant his seeds, we too must be discerning when selecting the people with whom we entrust our goals. Not all soil is fertile, and not everyone around us is prepared to support or understand what God has planted in our hearts. In our lives, there are times when we are full of ideas, projects, and dreams. The desire to share everything with those around us can be great, but it is important to remember that not all ears are good at listening. Often, sharing with people who are not ready to support can lead to frustration or even discouragement. The wisdom here is to carefully choose those who truly root for our success and who have the faith and discernment to encourage us on the right path. A practical way to apply this lesson is to observe people's reactions when you share something important. If you notice that someone is not supporting or showing genuine interest, perhaps this is not the best soil to plant your ideas. Look for people who have experience, wisdom, and who share the same spiritual values as you. They are the fertile soil where your dreams can grow and prosper with the necessary support. Jesus teaches us that the wise sower does not waste his seeds just anywhere. We should also be like this with our dreams. Don't throw them away, sharing them with those who won't know how to nurture or care for them. Have faith that God will put the right people in your path, those who will help you water and care for what you have planted so lovingly in your heart. James advises us to be quick to listen and slow to speak, a guideline that goes beyond everyday conversations. This principle can also be applied to the way we deal with our dreams and plans. There is immense wisdom in keeping some things to ourselves, especially at the beginning, when dreams are still forming. Not everything should be said right away. Silence, in this context, reveals discernment and patience. Often, by sharing a dream prematurely, we run the risk of exposing ourselves to criticism or discouragement. Not everyone will understand or support what God is doing in our lives. Keeping our plans to ourselves for a while gives us the opportunity to mature, think calmly, and seek the right direction in prayer. By speaking less and listening more, we give God space to guide us with wisdom and faith. In our daily lives, we can apply this teaching by reflecting before telling others about our plans. Is this the right time? Will the person you are about to share your plans with be someone who will truly understand and support your dream? Keeping silent does not mean not trusting others, but rather waiting for the right moment. Wisdom lies in discerning when to speak and when to remain silent. Holding dreams in our hearts is also a way of practicing faith. When we speak less and listen more, we create space for God to work in our lives. Dreams planted in silence often grow stronger because they are protected from external influences. This patience and wisdom in waiting for the right moment to speak connects us even more to God's will for our lives. Jesus teaches us in Matthew 6:6 the importance of the secret place, a space of intimacy with God where our prayers and dreams can mature away from the eyes of the world. This is the place where we seek guidance, where our hopes are nurtured, and where we can grow spiritually in silence. When we enter this place of communion with God, our worries are surrendered, and our faith is strengthened. In our daily lives, this secret place can be any environment where we can connect with God without distractions, whether it's in our bedroom, in a park, or even in a quiet moment during the day. It's in this space of intimacy that our dreams receive divine guidance. Away from external pressures, we can hear the voice of God, who guides us with wisdom and discernment. Creating this routine of silence and prayer strengthens our faith and allows our dreams to grow safely. Many of our greatest dreams and achievements begin in moments of prayer and deep reflection. When we keep our plans and aspirations in this place of silence, we avoid the interference of negative influences. Just as a plant needs time to grow before being exposed, our dreams also need this period of protection. Practicing faith in the secret place means trusting that, in due time, what God has placed in our hearts will flourish. The wisdom of Jesus in teaching us to pray in secret lies in the fact that silence is often the most fertile ground for our faith. There, far from distractions, we learn to discern what really matters and prepare ourselves for the challenges that lie ahead. In the secret place, our dreams are watered by prayer, patience, and complete trust in God. The story of Joseph and his brothers, told in Genesis 37, teaches us about the danger of sharing dreams with the wrong people. Joseph had great dreams given to him by God, but when he told them to his brothers, he aroused envy and hatred. This shows that not everyone around us is prepared or willing to support our plans. Some people, unfortunately, can become distractions or obstacles in our path. In our daily lives, we can apply this lesson by being more selective with whom we share our ambitions. Sometimes, when we share something precious with someone who does not have the same discernment or who is stuck in their own insecurities, we can end up receiving criticism that undermines our confidence. We need to have faith that God will put the right people by our side, those who will help us grow instead of discouraging us. Choosing who to share our dreams with is a demonstration of wisdom. A practical way to avoid distractions is to observe how people react when you share an achievement or plan. If the reaction is negative or disinterested, it may be a sign that that person is not the best companion for this journey. Silence in these cases is a protection for your purpose. Do not allow the words of someone who does not understand your calling to get in the way of the plan that God has for your life. Joseph's faith in his dreams was never shaken, even when his brothers betrayed him. Likewise, we must trust that, even when distractions come, God is faithful to guide us. Discernment helps us identify the right people to walk with us, those who have the faith and wisdom to support us in carrying out our plans. In Mark 8:22-26, Jesus heals a blind man in Bethsaida, and interestingly, asks him not to tell anyone about what happened. This request for discretion reveals a powerful lesson. We should not always immediately share what is happening in our lives, especially when something is still developing or strengthening. Silence, in this case, preserves and protects what is being done by God, away from external opinions and interference. In our daily lives, there are times when we are experiencing great changes or blessings, and the natural impulse is to tell the world. However, this passage teaches us that not everything should be exposed quickly. Some things need to mature in silence, where faith can grow without distractions. By not immediately spreading what God is doing, we give space for the work to be completed fully and safely, without interference that could divert focus. A practical example of how to apply this lesson would be in times of promotion or professional growth. It may be tempting to tell everyone about a new opportunity, but in certain cases it is wiser to wait until the position is solidified. Likewise, in relationships or personal projects, initial silence allows growth to occur more steadily. Jesus knew that the right time to speak was crucial to the success of any plan. Jesus' faith in asking the blind man he healed to be silent shows us that discernment is essential. Sharing something before the time is right can attract distractions or even negative energies that will not contribute to the growth of that miracle or dream. Thus, we must learn to trust in God's timing, recognizing that there is wisdom in silence and discretion while we wait for the right moment to speak. The story of Samson and Delilah, told in Judges 16, is a clear example of how trusting secrets to those who are not worthy can lead to destruction. Samson, a man chosen by God, revealed the secret of his strength to the wrong person, and this resulted in his downfall. The lesson here is clear. We need to discern who we trust with our secrets, dreams, and weaknesses, because not everyone will have good intentions or be aligned with God's purpose for our lives. In our daily lives, it is easy to be carried away by emotion and proximity, trusting people who, in fact, may not be prepared to take care of our confidences. Samson's mistake teaches us the importance of choosing wisely who we allow to know our vulnerabilities. Not everyone who is by our side has a pure heart or the same values. Discernment is essential to protect our journey and keep our faith unshakable. A practical way to apply this lesson is to observe the character of the people around us. If someone has already betrayed the trust of others or shown signs of disloyalty, perhaps they are not the ideal person to share something so important. Trust is something built with time and evidence, not just based on words or appearances. To protect our plans and secrets, it is wise to wait until we are sure who really deserves that trust. The story of Samson reminds us that when we trust in God, He gives us discernment to know who to trust. Faith in God guides us to recognize the right people, those who walk alongside us with honesty and integrity. In this way, we protect our dreams and our purpose, avoiding traps and people who can lead us astray. Proverbs 10:19 teaches us that, "In many words there wanteth not transgression, but he that refrains his lips is prudent." Knowing the right time to speak and to be silent is an art that reflects wisdom and self-control. Speaking too much or at the wrong time can cause serious problems, such as misunderstandings and divisions. Those who speak only when necessary, on the other hand, demonstrate discernment and avoid situations that could get out of control. In our daily lives, we are often led by the impulse to speak without thinking, whether to express an opinion or to try to convince others of something. However, the advice of Proverbs reminds us that moderation is essential. Controlling our tongue is a sign of spiritual maturity and protects us from saying things we may later regret. In family or work discussions, this prudence in speaking can avoid major conflicts. A practical example of how to apply this wisdom is, before entering into an important conversation, to pause briefly to reflect on what will be said. Ask yourself, will this bring edification? Will it help or harm? If the answer is not clear, silence may be the wisest choice. Often what we do not say is more powerful than what we say impulsively. This practice connects us deeply to faith, because when we ask God for discernment about what to say, we are recognizing that true wisdom comes from Him. When we moderate our words, we allow God to guide our actions and show us the path of prudence. Faith, combined with silence and wisdom, protects us from falling into verbal traps and helps us build healthier and more harmonious relationships. Understanding the power of silence and the wisdom of knowing when to speak will take us to higher places. How will you apply this to your life? Think about the decisions you need to make, the conversations you are yet to have. What would happen if, instead of acting on impulse, you sought calm and reflection? Silence is often the terrain where dreams are strengthened and relationships are restored. How about starting today to practice more? Listening, patience, and discernment in your words. What areas of your life need this touch of wisdom? What if you could avoid mistakes and build more solid decisions simply by adjusting when and how you speak? Leave your answers in the comments, and if this video spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way, you will continue to learn more about how to make wise choices aligned with God's purpose.